Hello, I'm Blake. I'm from Broomfield, Colorado. I'm a junior studying cybersecurity with the hopes of going into the network engineering field. Additionally, I'm pursuing a minor in Spanish. Outside of class, I'm a member of the Phi Kappa Psi fraternity, where I've been an active member for the last 3 years.
I'm Rakshan and I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm a freshman currently studying data science with the hopes of going into healthcare analytics. I'm in the Honors College and a part of the Emerging Scholars Program where I'm currently starting research on generative AI models.
Hello, I'm Rowan, and I'm from Farmington, Utah. I'm a junior studying cybersecurity, and outside of class, I'm a member of the Beta Theta Pi fraternity.
A single tweet from a cybersecurity researcher sent shockwaves to the financial world. Hey, at Capital One, you might want to check your AWS S3 buckets. Someone's leaking your data. At first, the tweet seemed like just another blip in the endless noise of social media, but within hours, the truth became undeniable. One of America's largest and most trusted banks had been breached, and not by a foreign government, not by a shadowy cybercrime syndicate, but by a lone hacker named Paige Thompson, a former Amazon Web Services employee who stumbled upon the digital equivalent of an unlocked vault. The scale of the breach was staggering. Over 100 million people, mothers, veterans, college students, retirees, had their most sensitive information stolen. Social security numbers, bank balances, credit scores, home addresses. For many, it wasn't just data, it was their financial lives laid bare. But the most devastating part? This wasn't some cutting-edge, state-sponsored cyber attack. It wasn't a flaw in some obscure piece of software. This was a failure so basic, so preventable, that it bordered on negligence. A misconfigured firewall, a server left wide open to the public internet, security measures that a first-year IT student would know to implement, and yet Capital One, a bank that held $373 billion in assets, had somehow overlooked it. As lawsuits piled up and regulators demanded answers, a disturbing question lingered. How could this happen? Was it incompetence? A rushed push to the cloud without proper safeguards? Or something even more troubling? A company that cared more about profits and shareholder returns than protecting the very people who trusted them with their life savings.
Let's rewind to March 22nd, 2019, the day Paige Thompson first breached Capital One's defenses. She wasn't some coding genius. She was a former Amazon employee who knew a dirty little secret about cloud security. Companies often leave doors wide open by mistake. In Capital One's case, it was a misconfigured web application firewall, a system meant to block intruders that instead waved them inside. For months, Thompson downloaded terabytes of data, even bragging about it in online forums. She nicknamed herself Erratic and joked about the breach with other hackers. Meanwhile, Capital One had no idea. Their security teams missed the warning signs. Their monitoring systems failed. And when the truth finally came out, the company downplayed the crisis, calling it an isolated incident, as if 106 million people was just a rounding error. Think about what that means. Every day for 4 months, while customers logged into their accounts, paid bills, checked their credit scores, their data was already stolen. Their trust was already broken. In Capital One, they were in the dark, until a stranger on the internet told them their house was on fire. When CEO Richard Fairbank finally addressed the public, his apology felt corporate, scripted. He called it unfortunate, promised free credit monitoring, and emphasized that, quote, no bank account numbers were compromised. But that wasn't the full story, because while yes, hackers did get your exact checking account number, they got something worse. Your social security number, your birth date, the keys to your entire financial identity. And that's not unfortunate, that's catastrophic.
We need to talk about Linda. Linda is a 68-year-old widow from Ohio. She had been a Capital One customer for 15 years. After the breach, someone took out a $35,000 car loan in her name, and then the bank demanded payment. She spent 8 months proving it wasn't her, fighting phone calls, threatening letters, and even collection agencies. She told reporters, "I didn't just lose money, I lost sleep and I lost peace of mind." And Linda wasn't alone. Over 600 lawsuits were filed by people like James, a teacher in Florida who discovered criminals had filed tax returns in his name, or Maria, a single mom whose credit score dropped 200 points overnight when fraudsters maxed out fake credit cards in her name. These weren't just data points, these were lives upended by a bank's negligence. At a Senate hearing, lawmakers grilled Capital One's chief risk officer. "How does this happen?" one senator demanded. The answer? A mix of incompetence and indifference was given by Capital One. The firewall misconfiguration had been flagged in an audit given prior, but then ignored. Employees later admitted security protocols weren't followed, and when pressed on why customers weren't notified faster, the company blamed internal processes that apparently moved slower than the hackers did.
Let's step back and ask the hard question. Was this just a technical mistake or something deeper? Philosopher John Rawls argued that justice requires institutions to act as if behind a veil of ignorance, blind to who will suffer from their choices. But Capital One's leadership didn't need a thought experiment. They had warnings, they had audits, they had engineers raising red flags. So let's make it personal. If executives imagined their own mother's social security numbers dumped on the dark web, their children's bank accounts pillaged, would they have still cut corners? Would they have still delayed notifications, downplayed the damage, fought victims in court? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. This breach wasn't unpredictable. It wasn't unforeseen. In 2018, a full year before Paige Thompson typed a single command, the entire financial industry was screaming about cloud misconfigurations. The FBI issued alerts, consultants gave trainings, competitors patched their systems. And Capital One's own engineers later admitted under oath that they had prioritized innovation over security. Translation? They raced to roll out flashy new features, digital wallets, instant approvals, while treating cybersecurity like an afterthought, like a cost center, like your privacy was negotiable. Assumed, not verified, not enforced, just assumed. And when the roof caved in, they didn't take responsibility. They hid behind PR spin, legal jargon, and a $190 million punishment that amounted to 0.05% of their revenue that year. Rawls asked what fairness looks like when you don't know if you'll be the hammer or the nail, but Capital One knew exactly who'd be the nail, and they swung anyway.
So where do we go from here? First, regulation with teeth laws that punish negligence, not just breaches. Second, transparency, forcing companies to disclose hacks within 72 hours, not 72 days. But most importantly, a cultural shift, because no firewall can replace integrity. No algorithm can substitute for ethics. Banks must stop seeing security as a cost center, start treating it as a sacred duty to the people who trust them with their life's work. The next time a CEO asks, "Can we afford better security?" remember Linda. Remember James. The real question is, can they afford not to?